Hey YouTube, Awesome Rider here. Welcome to my review for the Super 7 MMPR Green Ranger figure. This is from their newly released, finally the first wave came out, higher end collectible figure line, not to be confused with the 4-inch or the 3-inch-ish scale little ones on the cards they've been doing. These are ones that are kind of in between, like a Lightning Collection and a figure art, and it's very interesting to possibly compare these as alternatives to both. But let's go ahead and get started. Before we get into the figure, I'm going to cut away quickly and take a look at the packaging, as well as the plethora of accessories this guy has to offer. Alright, so real quick, just to go over the box. It's pretty understated, but it gets the job done. The sort of style of it almost echoes the old 90s packaging, which is kind of cool, and you got a nice shot of the coin right there, and then just a logo on the back. Like, it's pretty slick, and it's honestly not like the best thing ever, but I like it for what it is, honestly. And then you just got the logo there with the window, and then you do have a nice little bio of the Green Ranger right there. You can pause that and read that if you want it, but now let's take a look at the accessories. Alright, now here we have the accessories, or what also kind of looks like a crime scene, but he's actually very well accessorized. You have a ton of different things. I mean, right here, obviously, you can see you have the Dragon Dagger, which is very well painted. It looks really nice. It's got kind of a nice, almost matte finish to it. And then right here, you might be wondering why you have this really gray, boring, strange-looking version. And if you're wondering that, you're a fake fan. Sad. No, in all seriousness, they included some pieces in here that are a throwback to the original 90s Fliphead releases. So you have this, and you also have a power blaster, or a dagger blaster, or a blade blaster, whatever, blaster. Something with a dagger and a blaster, but because he included it in the old toys, so just kind of a throwback to that, which is why he also has, right here, these golden pieces here. And I will be showing off some of the swappable pieces, such as the chest armor and the heads and stuff, but these shiny pieces are meant to represent the old 90s toy. And you also have some swappable arms without the chest armor, or the arm armor for it, so when you can put these on when you put the gold armor on. You actually have one of these devices from the show, which is similarly well painted. You got an extra villain sword right here, which is also kind of a nice accessory. As well as, of course, the Sword of Darkness, which is very well painted. It's got a really nice, almost light silver shine to it, and a really nice little touch to make it feel like a more expensive figure, which it is this is actually cloth, which is really just kind of an appreciated little detail. You also do have a buckle version of the Power Morpher that's opening, so you can have him doing the morphing sequence. And you have two alternate heads. You have one just regular sort of ponytail Tommy that can be, you know, Season 2 Tommy or even White Ranger Tommy. These are both kind of weird because they're both a bit cartoony looking, and yet they do kind of echo his likeness. What I actually kind of like about it is I can see it as a comic version of the head, which is something I've desperately wanted for a while. And if you're wondering if these can fit on the Lightning figures, I tried it, and I suppose it is possible, but I wouldn't. I feel like you'd have to force it and you'd screw up one of the mechanisms. It is sort of possible, but it also looks weird, as this head is slightly too big for it. It makes it look like a weird Chucky situation. And then you do have Evil Green Ranger, possessed Tommy, kind of with dark circles under his eyes. Again, so you can see it's kind of got a cartoony look, and yet it does echo his appearance. And of course you have the alternate hands as well. One's for gripping the weapons, as well as one's for playing the flute, and some action hands. Got one of them missing there just because that's the one I'm going to show off swapping them out for. So here we have the main event itself, and as you can see, it overall does look really nice. I do have some nitpicks about it, but I have to say, just looking at it, it looks really nice. Now, something I want to mention right off the bat, which I think is really nice about it too, is it does have a really nice, solid feel to it. I've talked a lot recently in certain reviews about the sort of feel of the products in regards to them feeling cheap or not cheap, or sort of, you know, expensive figures actually feeling worth the price they're charged for. And this is definitely a pricey figure, and I can't say 100% it's worth the $50+. I feel like I wish it was a little bit cheaper. I'm not saying you don't get a lot for your money in a way, but I'm just saying I wish it was a little bit cheaper. But that being said, for a pricier figure, this definitely feels a lot more solid. It has a very solid feel, and is the closest I've come to that feeling I like of the feel of a figure correlating to the amount of money it costs, where it feels like, yes, this is a quality product, it feels solid and sturdy, and I really like that. Like, even with the articulation, which does feel a little stiffer than the Lightning Collection, like it just doesn't feel as, like, versatile in a way, and it feels a little more boxy, but the joints themselves feel very solid, and they feel different than what I'm used to, so I can't say for certain they won't become loose over time, but just working with them, they do feel very solid, which is really nice. I don't know, he's doing like a show off there. Check out the guns! And then you got like the swiveling there as well for that. And then for the chest, he does rotate here like this. And then for the waist, you do have this giant hinge joint, which I'm going to be honest, just style-wise, no matter what the figure, I'm not a fan of that. I just don't like seeing that giant hinge there. Obviously, it's covered up by his chest armor here a little bit, but still. And then the head articulation is kind of what you come to expect. So it's basically on par with a Lightning figure. And again, it just feels a little boxier to me. Nothing that's a huge deal. It's just kind of by nature of it being a different mold. But it all feels very solid. It has a very nice, almost weight to it, which is appreciated. It even feels more sturdy than the figure art. Now, look-wise, overall paint job, it's a really good job, I think. Like, I think the helmet is really well done. It's got a nice shine to it. I think it's well proportioned. I'm going to be honest, just talking about the proportions, this is really weird because everything feels like it's just slightly off. Like it's one of the closer Green Ranger figures to a lot of the proportions and looks, but everything is just ever so slightly off. Like the green helmet's proportions are mostly close, but it just looks ever so slightly pulled. Like it's almost like the entire figure had somebody go in and tweak the aspect ratio without holding down shift or whatever, and it just slightly screwed with it. Like even his whole body, which you'll be able to see a little bit more when I take his chest armor off. That sounded weird, but you know what I mean? Like it looks like it has this almost elongated feel. It's like only ever so slightly though. And also little stuff like the chest armor here you can see slides down, so it's like you're seeing his version of like chest hair coming out, which you can just like pull it back up and it'll stay, but that's a little bit bothersome. But it's very nitpicky, but it's just something I noticed where I'm like, this looks really good. It's in some ways one of the closest looking to what the suit looks like, and yet there is something just slightly off about the proportions. But the paint overall looks good. The green has a nice matte finish to it. I think it shines nicely, but it's not too dull. The gold is kind of a darker gold with a bit of a shine. I feel like what's the most accurate is really dependent on the picture you're looking at, to be honest. There's like no paint mistakes or anything. I only got 2 of these figures so far, but I haven't found any noticeable paint mistakes. And right here you can also see even the Morpher is well detailed on there. You can see all the little details. It even says Power Rangers in really small print. So it's definitely a very good looking figure. Just ever so slightly off in the proportion department. Now I'm going to just quickly show off being able to swap out some of the parts so you can get a feel for that, or a secondhand feel. But before that, I did want to compare it to the Lightning figure, as people were inevitably going to want to ask for that. And you can see there is a difference there. And the Lightning figure for green was one that did take a lot of heat. I'm going to be honest, I actually kind of liked it for what it was. I know one of the major complaints was obviously he doesn't have the diamonds under here and stuff like that. But just in terms of the regular look, I honestly don't think it's that bad. I think the biggest complaint I have about this one, outside of the diamonds, which because I have the armor on there all the time doesn't bother me as much, is he's got a little bit like lacking in the neck department. I want to talk about this comparison because I feel like people are going to immediately use Super 7 to pile on the Lightning collection, especially right now when we have the issues with the brittle figures. Now, this figure predates the brittle figures. This is sort of prime Lightning collection when the quality was fine. And I want to note the price difference between these, which this was actually about 20 bucks, 22 bucks when it came out. The Lightning collection averages around 24, 25 now, but this is over $50 to $55 depending on where you're getting it. So it's almost double the price. So obviously there's a lot to consider, and it's an especially weird time as of this recording. You could be watching this in the future where the Lightning collection is fixed, but it's definitely worth comparing. But there is a sizable price difference. People are acting like Super 7 is an excellent alternative, and while it is a superior figure in a lot of ways, price-wise it's not necessarily an excellent alternative. Like obviously right now with the brittle figures, you're going to be probably considering something else, but if we're just talking about a standard normal Lightning collection release in its quote-unquote prime, it's worth considering the Lightning collection releases, considering it's about half the price. Again, there's some problems with the regular green one, but it's also worth noting that as of the time of this recording, they are starting remaster versions of the MMPR figures with only blue and yellow announced at the moment, but green will likely be down the pipeline, you know, and it'll be worth comparing then. Those are 30 bucks. That's still about a $20 price difference, but still, I just think it's worth noting that yes, this is in most ways a superior product, but this comes from a time when the Lightning figures weren't as brittle, so it's worth noting that this is about half the price. So we'll see where the Lightning collection goes, but I would say that comparing these two in terms of purchases, this much more feels like, again, setting aside the current brittle figure status, depending on what you want to do. Like if you want to build a team of Zeo Rangers, presuming they would ever do Zeo of these, you're probably going to want to go for the Lightning collection for about a $20 average price, setting aside stuff like the double pack for Zeo Ranger 1, whereas with this is something you get more so if it's like, hey, I want a really, you know, high-end figure of my favorite Ranger. Like, you probably will be able to buy all of the Rangers at some point. You get what I'm going at. I'm just saying, it's worth comparing, but it's a double the price difference. So let's not say that Super 7 is necessarily a reasonable replacement for the price bracket of Lightning. But anyway, I went on too long about that. Let's swap out some stuff. So just real quick to show the basics, actually that's the wrong hand, to swap out the hands, you know, super easy, you just pull it out right here, hey-oh, and then you get the hand off camera and you're fumbling in the background, there you go. And you swap it out right there, and voila, super easy. And then to swap out the arms, you know, just pull them out here like this. And I have to say, everything's actually extraordinarily easy to swap out. Like, it seems like I'm pulling a little bit, but it's got a really nice system. And then you have to swap out the head here like this, and then take the armor off like here. And when we put the armor, actually, you know, let's really quickly put this all back on. Just before I do the armor, just to show you, you can sort of see the slightly lanky proportion he has. Again, it's not something super noticeable. It's just ever so slightly off, and it's more noticeable when you don't have the armor on. I wanted to showcase that before I put the other armor bits on. But now let's put the armor bits on. You put it on just like the old 90s figure, and voila! And that's honestly kind of a neat thing. Maybe unnecessary to some people. I just put those arms back on instead of the armless, these ones here, but you get the drift of it. You know, I showed off swapping the arms. I will swap off the head here in a second, but before I get to that, the main reason for swapping off the arms, oh my god, what happened to your head? The main reason for swapping off the arms was I wanted to talk about how nice, honestly, one of my favorite things about the figure is how nice it is to swap out the head and the arms, where the joints hit this pitch perfect balance of they feel tight enough to where everything feels solid, and yet they're super easy to swap out. It doesn't feel like they're going to become overly loose. It doesn't feel like you're going to break the figure. It's this really nice, like, unexpected sweet spot. Like, I've never quite had it that good before. Like, that sounds weird and a weird thing to go on about. Someone who's having collected a lot of figures where you can swap out the heads or the arms or the hands or whatever, it's this really excellent sweet spot that I think should be praised. I don't know if it'll become looser over time, but right now it's actually rather cool how it manages to feel solid and yet super easy to swap out, where it's just like the right amount of force. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it because I just recently had that experience where two Izzy figures combusted on me like a Turbo Man doll. But it's just super easy to swap out. Like, even the headpiece right here, I'll just swap out right here for the final verdict to human Tommy right there. Again, it's not the best likeness, but I actually kind of appreciate that I can look at this as comic Tommy in a way. It looks a little bit strange. It's kind of more of a stylized look, but it is nice too that they give you two alternate heads. And that's something nice about the other Rangers, like the Core 5 Rangers, is they're going to give you both MMPR 1.0 and 2.0, meaning like for Zach you get Adam and Zach, and for you know, Kimberly, you're going to get Kimberly and Kat, and so forth. So they're not going to force you to double dip, which would honestly be kind of an insane ask for a $50+ figure, but it's still nice that makes it a comprehensive experience. But anyway, final verdict for this guy, what do I think? Honestly, it's not perfect. There are some oddities in the proportions. You know, you can see that the civilian heads are a little bit strange if you're not into that almost cartoony stylized look. But that being said, this is a damn nice collector's figure. It looks really nice. It feels solid. It has that solid, I just bought a, you know, expensive collectible feel to it. And it's like very well accessorized. You know, you get almost everything you could ever want. It's not perfect. I still feel like it's a little pricey for me, even though I feel that the quality of it matches up with the price. It feels a little bit pricey. I would always try to find a sale on stuff like this. But if you're considering this for your favorite Rangers, I would definitely say it's worth a look. Again, the conversation about it being a comparable replacement for Lightning is weird right now because it's double the price, but we're in a weird place right now where the collection of the Lightning, or the quality of the Lightning collection is in trouble. So I don't know. That's maybe more of a conversation for a different day. But I hope this review is helpful. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.